Hello! Before we start today, let's just take a look at the average score for the games we're going to be playing. Son of a... Welcome back everyone to Web Series Episode 2. Today we're going to be starting off with The Amazing Spider-Man, made in 1999 by Paragon... Wait, no, I already did this one. Well, no, I didn't. It turns out there was two different games called The Amazing Spider-Man that both came out in 1990. So, who made this one? Rare? I can't believe I haven't heard about this until now. I love Rare, and they're one of my favorite developers. And they really hit their stride in the 90s with some amazing titles like Donkey Kong Country, Killer Instinct, GoldenEye, and Banjo-Kazooie, just to name a few. See, Rare had a charm that other companies just couldn't replicate, but until making this video, I never knew they made a Spider-Man game. Well, it was strange that they had two games with the same name come out in the same year. It gets even stranger. Both stories start out with Mysterio kidnapping Mary Jane, but the similarities end there. The gameplay this time around is way different. You might be thinking, the gameplay must be better. It's not! You start out behind an alley, and so far it's just a standard 2D action game. But right at this box is when I started to realize why I've never heard of it. How do you get over it? There's only two buttons on a Game Boy. What am I missing? Well, it turns out you have to get a slight head start with the 2 feet of room they give you. But it's so inconsistent. Maybe you'll do a normal jump, maybe you'll do a super jump, maybe you'll shoot your webs. And you don't know this now, but you better be conservative with that webbing, because the game gets 10 times harder if you don't have it. And webbing is scarce. But we're gonna get to that later. Now there's two different types of levels. The standard 2D side-scrolling with a boss battle at the end, and the 2D vertical climbing where you have to get to the top. It starts off simple. You climb the building that has all sorts of garbage falling down and a few guys trying to get you from the windows. But after the first vertical level, it goes from a few guys to half the population of China. You'd have to be Spider-Man himself to handle this. I mean, look what's on my screen right now. Besides the climbing parts though, as long as you have webbing, the game isn't too hard. Then we get to the last stage, where we meet Venom? Does this look like Venom to you? Because that don't look like Venom to me. But the mission leading up to him just goes crazy, throwing everything it can at you. Who needs game design when you can just place enemies everywhere? The difficulty spike looks like this. Oh, whoops. Wrong graph. Seriously, it took me more time to beat this level than it did the entire game. And Venom is just as hard, but he is a fair boss with a pattern, and I do have to give them credit for that. When you do finally beat him, it feels great. You get some love, and Mary Jane practices her stand-up after being held hostage by this thing for hours. This game was hard, but honestly, the controls were the worst part. If it had more webbing, or at least parts of the game that didn't require webbing, it could actually be decent. We're gonna go with 3 Spider-Man catchphrases out of 5 for this one. Well, to my surprise, that was actually the first part in a trilogy of games, but for this episode, we're just going to focus on the first and now the sequel. The best part of any sequel is when the developers take all the cons of the first game and improve on them, and take all the pros and expand on them. Let's take a behind-the-scenes look at the development process of The Amazing Spider-Man 2 Game Boy game. Yeah, they messed this up bad. The controls are better, but that's the only improvement. It's no longer a side-scroller, but a maze-like platformer. The music is way worse, and the story is somehow less exciting than the first. Now you need to find keys and know specific secrets in order to progress. I don't know why Rare would change it up so much. Oh, this isn't Rare, it's made by Bits Studio. Yeah, you remember Bits Studios, with such classic hits as Itchy and Scratchy, and what was that other one? Oh yeah, Casino Poker for the PSP? A classic. Honestly, there's really not much to say about this one. The plot this time around is Spider-Man gets framed and he has to clear his name. I couldn't make it very far in this game without a guide, and even with a guide the game's hard. It's very easy to get lost or stuck because there's no indication of anything. For example, the first mission has Goblin flying around on his glider, but no matter what I do, I can't kill him. Well, it turns out he's invincible, and you have to attach a web to the bottom of his glider and pull him down, and then you can fight him. How would you know that? You wouldn't. And that is just the start of the confusion. You always have to do a specific action in a specific order to progress in this game, and it makes it a chore to play. This game isn't comically bad. It's just bad. I'm gonna just end this now and give it a 1 out of 60 Spider-Man quips. Alright, we're going to be moving on from the Game Boy games and going on to the Sega Genesis to play Spider-Man vs. the Kingpin. We start off with Kingpin on the news telling everyone Spider-Man has planted a bomb in the city and he's offering a $10,000 reward for anyone who can catch him. As we start the game, you'll notice right away Spider-Man's sprite looks amazing. Good shading on everything, and he's not 2 feet tall. But we start out in a safe spot with a friendly police officer and an old lady. Let's try and figure out how to jump. Is it A? Oh no, it turns out that A is the beat the shit out of a cop button.
Well, if he was innocent before, he sure isn't now.
Alright, now that we committed a felony, we'll keep walking around and you'll find a grandma being mugged. Unfortunately, she can't suffer the same fate as the police officer. So we beat up the mugger and start climbing the building. I started to have war flashbacks from the Amazing Spider-Man, but they actually did it really well. You move fast and you can jump to gain altitude. It flows so nice. Isn't it strange though that people are attempting to catch Spider-Man by whatever hand motion that is? Why are they trying to give Spider-Man a reach around? Moving on, we go to the top of the building and can practice web swinging. The animations are very fluid and you get a good sense of speed. Let's move on to the first mission though. For the most part, it has the classic guy in a coat with a gun, but there's also these rats. Why is Spider-Man always getting hurt by rats? And why is there so many of them in this game? I mean, I get it's New York, but you can't walk 2 feet without getting hurt by a rat with the smallest hitbox. My next problem comes immediately afterwards. If you're facing more than one enemy at a time, you get hit no matter how good you are. They shoot so fast, it's like a constant stream of bullets, and when you do manage to get up, you have 2 options. Stand up and take the punches, or you can crouch and play World War I Trench Simulator Spider-Man Edition. The other thing is you never have enough time to react to shots, so if you do stand and walk, you could be shot dead at any moment. I will say, this is the funniest continue screen I have ever seen. Spider-Man sucker punches a cop and then breaks out of a jail cell. What else could you want from something like this? If you've been paying attention, you might have noticed this sound. At first, I thought something was wrong with the game until I found out, no, that's just the noise of your spider sense. Hope you like that sound because you're going to be hearing it a lot throughout the course of the game. Not for normal enemies, no, but for those damn rats and the bosses. Speaking of bosses, the first one you face is a Spider-Man classic. Comic fans, get ready for some nostalgia because the first boss is a forklift driver.
Genius.
I know it's kind of my job to say something about this, but I'm speechless. Why is this the first boss battle? After all, there is plenty of classic villains in this game like Venom, Electro, Hobgoblin, Gorilla. Wait, what? Gorilla again? Why? He has never fought Gorilla before! Who keeps putting gorillas in Spider-Man games?
I'm not even mad, I'm just confused.
Talking about a gorilla in another Spider-Man game is giving me a headache. So I'm just gonna go talk about the last 2 boss fights. For the first one, you have to fight all the bosses you've fought before, but at the same time. And talk about an ass whooping. Damn, Electro, calm down, he's already dead. But after you beat them, you have to fight Kingpin himself. And this is where it goes from unfair to bullshit. He has such a small hitbox and you have to be pixel perfect to get the hit. You're also on a small timer shown by Mary Jane about to be boiled alive. Once you do beat him though, the cops show up and I guess they forgive you about beating an officer to death and escaping your cell. And then they take Kingpin away. This was a challenging game. A lot of enemy sections were unfair, but after using some web and health cheats, I did have a good time with it. Not great, but good. It deserves 1 bronze Spider-Man costume out of 1.
Alright, that's 6 down so far. Only 26 more to go.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Thank you everyone so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more, subscribe and hit the bell button. It'll give you a notification when I upload the next episode of Web Series. Thank you again so much for watching, and have a great day.